All right, in this video, we're going to be setting up a relayer for Catalyst. Catalyst is a cross-chain AMM. You could imagine like a traditional DeFi AMM where there's two assets in a pool. You can swap between them using a DEX or AMM. Catalyst is the same, except the pools are on different blockchains. And it uses these little microservices called relayers to send the messages using Wormhole and other inter-blockchain messaging protocols in exchange for a small fee. So by setting up one of these services, you can potentially be earning a nice little stream of fee revenue for sending these messages, and that is paid in ETH. And that, again, will be available once Catalyst launches on mainnet. Right now, this is all testnet ETH, so free to play around with and get yourself set up for when the main launch happens. So before we get started, there are a couple things you need. One is a MetaMask account or any kind of Ethereum account. There's a lot of different ways to generate it, but you will need the private key for your account. I use MetaMask. The way you do it is you click into your MetaMask and click the three dots and then account details and click through. Obviously, don't store your private key insecurely or show it to anyone because that would put the entire funds in your account at risk. But when you download the private key on MetaMask, it's going to give you a 64-character string, and you need to basically take that string and save it to like a notepad file or something, but add 0x to the beginning of it. So you need to add that in order for the private key to work. The next thing you need is an account with Alchemy. There are two things that we need from Alchemy. The first is some testnet ETH. So you go in here, you set up your account. I think it's just a free email sign up, and then they're going to send you testnet ETH to your Ethereum Sepolia account, and that's what you're going to be using because it costs some gas to send these messages. The other thing you need are 3 RPC URLs for the 3 different testnets that we're going to be using. So you have ETH Sepolia, that's like a mainnet testnet, and then Arbitrum Sepolia and Optimism Sepolia. And when you go into Alchemy, it's gonna ask you to create an app, and you go to that and then click through this get your API key. And the API key is gonna look something like this, right? You're gonna have this URL, and then you're gonna have a 32-character string that I've X'd out here for privacy, but it'll look similar to your private key, just kind of like a random set of numbers and letters. So you're going to need the 3 of those for each blockchain, and that is all you need from Alchemy to get started here. So now we're going to go ahead and set up our cloud instance that this is running in. I am using DigitalOcean. They have a $200 free credit that you can sign up and get $200, which should last you quite a few months. If you're just running a relayer, it's not that expensive. So that's what I'm using, and I will show you how I set it up here. So you just go to Manage and Droplets. Droplets are what DigitalOcean calls its individual cloud instances. You just click Create Droplet, and it's going to ask you, we want to use Ubuntu, which is the default, and then it's going to have these different options here for the amount of processor power and everything. So if you look here, Catalyst tells you that you need 1 fast or 2 slow CPUs, 2 gigs of memory, 25 of storage space. But I'm just going to go ahead and pick this one because it seems like it gives me 2 CPUs and seems like it's fine on the other requirements. $21 a month. And you go down here. I prefer to use the SSH keys to log in. That's a little flow. When you start up your DigitalOcean account, you can create these keys, which will allow you to bypass putting in a password, save you some time there, and create Droplet. So now it's spinning up the virtual computer that will be running Docker and the software in. And while that is going, the next thing you do is go up here to New Project, and I'm going to call this project Catalyst Relay, and just put anything in here. Trying out DigitalOcean, create project, and then it's going to ask you which virtual computer do you want to put here. So I'm just going to click this one, move resources. All right, so now we have our project set up, and what we need to do is get into the terminal console for the server that we created. So I'm just going to click the three dots here and then access console and launch droplet console, and it should log us in. This may take a minute or two when you're first launching it because the computer takes a little bit of time to spin up. All right, so that came up. This is what the terminal screen looks like. So now we're going to head back over to the Catalyst docs and get started on the installing dependencies. So we have Ubuntu Linux that's set up on the instance, and then you want to click this link here, and then it's going to go to the Docker documentation and give you the commands to run to install Docker. So I'm just going to grab this entire batch of commands and run it. There'll just be a couple times where you have to click yes for continue, and you can just click the default for everything. It should run pretty smoothly. All right, so that installed, and then we go down here to these commands to install the latest Docker version. All right, so that is complete, and then we have this hello world program to run just to ensure that it is installed correctly. All right, so it looks like that worked. All right, so now we have Docker. The second thing that we need to do here is install Docker Compose. So you go down here and click the install Compose plugin, and we're going to use the Ubuntu instructions here, and then check the version to make sure we have the right version. All right, so we've got version 2.25, and I think in the docs here they say version, and it should be 2.24.7 or higher. So we're good to go on that, and the next step is to install the Catalyst software. So I'm going to run these commands and make copies of the config files. All right, so now we get into a slightly tricky part. There is a file that we've just installed on the instance called config.production.yaml. So this is going to contain all of the prerequisite stuff that we talked about at the start. It's going to have the private key for your address and the RPCs that we got for the 3 chains. So it's going to ask us, we're going to run this command. So this will allow us to just grab and edit that text file. All right, so we're in this config file. We can just look at it really quickly. Global, the first thing here is the space for your private key. So this is where you would paste that in between the 2 quote marks. And then going down here, these are a bunch of different settings that you can change. There is a good message in the Catalyst Discord under releayer support that talks about some of these and how they work, but it's basically like how quickly the software is querying the blockchain, how quickly it's relaying the messages and stuff. So these would be the things to look at if you're really trying to like dial in your performance and reduce the number of failed transactions and that kind of thing. So what you need to do is go back to your notepad where you have your private key and then the 3 URLs. So obviously I will be doing my real private key in here, but you can just copy and paste private key into here, and then down here there are the chain configurations. So this is where we're putting the RPC. So for under RPC Sepolia, this is where you put the Sepolia RPC. So it's going to be this one plus your 32 character string, and so on. You can see Sepolia here, and then below that Arbitrum, and then below that Optimism. So just replace your replace the placeholder text with your own RPC, and then exit. I'm going to go ahead and add my actual data in here and save it, and then we will get this running. All right, so I've saved the config file, and now continuing on down the instructions, there are these other 2 commands that it wants you to run. I honestly have no idea what they do, but we're just going to copy and paste this. All right, so now the moment of truth. We are going to start up our relayer and see if it works. All right, that looks good to me. It is starting up. This process can take, I don't know, up to a couple minutes, but we're just going to let it run, and then it will put us back at the command line, and then we can start checking the logs to see if it's actually getting transactions. All right, so that has finished. Now this is going to keep running until you stop it. So the command to, if you ever need to stop, is here to run. But the next thing we're going to look at is this log file. So you can run this log command, and it's going to basically give you a live view into the relayer as it's scanning the blockchain every few milliseconds or whatever, and going through. If you see the warning, info, debug, the different colors, that's actually means it's working. I didn't have this the first time I set it up, and that was a bad sign. But now if you stare at this for maybe 30 seconds, as long as you don't see any obvious error messages, I think you're good to go. So yes, this definitely means that it's working. So the next thing you can do is just close out of here and go have a cup of coffee, come back and check your Etherscan. So the way to check if it's working is basically look at the Etherscans on Optimism, Arbitrum, and Sepolia to see if this is actually sending transactions for you. So right now it looks like I'm getting a fair amount of failed transactions. So this is going to be something to troubleshoot. In the Discord, there's a helpful message here that I will flag from a couple days ago about the parameters to check. These are the different delay times and stuff that you can tinker with in that YAML file that will hopefully help you get this dialed in. Obviously, like, you don't want a lot of failed transactions because each one of those is costing you a tiny bit of ETH and not getting you the bounty for that transactions. All right, so that's basically it. We've got our relayer up and running. If you've gotten this far, the next step that you may want to take a look at is running the underwriter. So the underwriter is a bit more of a risky proposition, right? The relayer, you're just getting ETH for sending the messages. The underwriter is what it will allow users of Catalyst to get their transactions processed faster by having these underwriters who are essentially putting their assets at stake to finalize the transaction sooner. So if there's a problem, they could lose their assets, but if the transactions go through fine, they're getting a bigger fee for taking on that risk as an underwriter. So you need to be a relayer first to act as an underwriter. So this is a good first step if you're interested in exploring that. And hopefully I will be back soon with a video on underwriting and how that works. Take care.